Magic lies in the mind, but my blade follows my...
Let the explanations begin. For those of you professional, educated guessers, yes, the heroes you see in the picture currently make up the best team in Mobile Legends as of the time of this video. Although this team is not immortal, it does have 2 heavy counters. The good thing is that you probably won't see the counter teams in this meta. Alright, so the key to team building at its core is knowing a hero's strengths and weaknesses, and then compensating with a hero who will cover for their weakness. Then, the combined duo you just made will have a collective weakness and strength. So once again, you keep on adding heroes until you finally reach a team that, even though the heroes are by no means overpowered by themselves, they synergize in a way that doesn't let you exploit them easily when fighting against them. Therefore, the team I have created, in theory, should be able to fend off against every team in Mobile Legends as of this day, and I would be surprised if any team gave them any actual difficulty in fighting, unless it's the 2 teams I will mention later. So who are they, Zero? Well, I won't keep you waiting, but if you want to hear the reasoning, stick around. The team consists of Mincithar, Helkurt, Kufra, Argos, and Rafaela. I listed them in that order because that's how you should pick them when drafting, since Mincithar, Kufra, and Helkurt by far outrank Argos and Rafaela in terms of popularity. We want to make sure we can pick those heroes. However, this team was constructed and based on Argos. Argos is an ADC/tank, but Moonton called him a fighter for whatever reason, and I'll explain things in full, just be patient with me. Just as a heads up, this whole team must, and I repeat must, take the emblems I mentioned for maximum synergy, as well as battle spells. Now back to Argos. What are Argos' weakness? Well, to be blunt, he isn't really good early game because he just can't do enough damage to kill an enemy hero without running the risk of dying himself. And everyone and their mom have dashes nowadays, so that makes it even worse for catching up to them, regardless of his skill too, just early game. It kind of gets better later in the game, but the biggest argument anyone has against Argos is just run away when he uses his ultimate, and he won't be a threat. So how do we fix that and make it so he doesn't die early game, and so that he can keep up with the new heroes? Well, that's where his laning partner comes in, Rafaela. But before we get too far in detail about her, let's finish up my ADC/tank claim. Even though Kufra is the actual tank on the team, he's more of a steady DPS tank. So if the enemy keeps on poking and lunging, Kufra is the real tank. But if the enemy has super burst and crowd control heroes like Aurora, Carry, Grok, Kaja, Selena, Lunox, etc., I can keep listing off burst heroes all day long. The point is that if they have those kind of lock 'em down and gun 'em down heroes, my man Argos is the real tank. However, don't get it twisted. After I finish explaining all of these heroes, I will tell you why they will always win in teamfights regardless of the enemy lineup, save for 2 cases. Finally, I don't think I need to point out why the ADC tag, since pretty much everyone knows that Argos will delete almost anyone late game by himself, and they can't exactly run away at that point, due to the speed boost from tagging an enemy with skill 2, his claw, and of course his ultimate. The point is, you aren't running away from this guy, especially with a further fix from me by adding sprint and the electro flash talent on the marksman emblem. I'll get to the builds later for each hero so I don't boggle you down with just more Argos reasoning. Next up on the list, we have Rafaela. If you recall what I said earlier, she's there to solve Argos' low sustain early game, to enable Argos to chase enemies more efficiently when Argos' other skills are on cooldown, and of course in teamfights to boost the team's movement speed significantly. You may not think this is much, but think of it as a double boost to the team. Slow down enemies while speeding up and healing your team is a really nice perk to have. But that can't be the only reason I chose Rafaela, right? Of course not. Mobile Legends has sneaky heroes like Natalia, and she can take on some of the strongest heroes in Mobile Legends if left unchecked. We cannot ignore her existence, and as such, we have to make sure someone on the team can expose her and not allow her to come into team fights. Unless of course she wants to be blasted into bits by Argos or Mincithar. In cases of extreme pressure, Rafaela can equip Sprint as well, to either run away from a team fight or support a raging Argos in chasing his target. But we created a dilemma here. Who the heck is going to dive into teams to start fights if we want to save Argos' ult for the middle of the team fights, and so that the enemy team doesn't just run away and then come back when his ultimate expires? Not only that, but we need someone that can handle and square off head to head against the monster tank Grok. and the deadly assassin Fanny. Kufra. We need Kufra. Needless to say that this guy will be laning with the squishiest hero on the team, Hellcurt, but not just because Hellcurt is squishy, no. It is because Kufra and Hellcurt are a direct threat to an invasion team that consists of Grok and Kaja. Grok is rivaled by Kufra in terms of damage, teamfight engaging powers, and while he cannot put up walls like Grok, you aren't going to be able to blink through this man when he is cutting off all of your dashes. Neither can Gujin recall his daggers on a target, or Fanny dive into the team recklessly. It becomes way too dangerous with this guy around, and I am so happy someone can finally rival Grok. Even in terms of invasions, you do not want to face off versus a Kufra and Hellcurt laning duo. Trust me. By the way, put Sprint and the attack and defense talent on this guy. Why the heck did I choose Hellcurt anyways? There's many reasons as well. I needed a strong jungler, a strong invader, and a strong lane clear, as well as someone who could cripple enemy mages and burst them down. The hero had to be fast and provide teamfight support, so his skills had to have an AoE impact, and Hellcurt fits all of those conditions. Everyone knows how deadly his stingers are already, and his ultimate, in unison with a well-coordinated team, can set up so many escapes and engages as well. The silence is critical to counter a lot of the strongest mages or skill casters in the game, but he needs to be able to escape as well, and that movement speed integrated into his ultimate allows him to equip Petrify instead of Sprint and lock heroes in for a proper stinger combo more easily. You may think I'm a fanatic of Sprint by now, but I'm just adjusting for this team to be the best together, not the best alone. Hence the keyword team. There's only one issue left to address though. I've got a strong gank, an overwhelming teamfight power. I've addressed for the weaknesses of my heroes, but there's a major, and I mean major, problem left to account for. Anti-gank teams. Teams that are focused and specialize in zoning make sure that enemies cannot die them. There is absolutely no way you are starting a teamfight against them without sacrificing at least one hero. That's why I chose Mincathar. Alternatively, you can fit Franco in his spot, but Franco cannot get fed by solo laning, and he can't fend off enemies as well as Mincathar can. Mincathar is just a better Franco no matter how you look at it. His passive alone ensures that even though he is solo laning early game, he can still keep up in gold with the enemy team. If anything, solo laning just increases his gold count. You don't exactly want to dive him under the tower either, as you can't escape easily. So yeah, Mincathar is the best option here for solo laning and for pulling enemies in without sacrificing an ally with engages. You already know the added benefits to his ultimate, and if you remember, you have another anti-blink guy on the team, Kufra. You have Rafaela, who can keep them in your ultimate longer with slowdowns and her ultimate stun. And you have Hellcurt, who can prevent heroes like Cho from using their kick to escape, or to come in from the back and cut off squishy escape routes. Everything works just like a well-oiled machine. Alright Zero, I don't really believe you. How the heck is this team supposed to beat the broken heroes of Season 12 anyways? Just think about it. The way that teams work right now, there is no team out there in this meta that can compete versus these guys. Unless of course you bring the two counter teams to the mix. One of these is Roger based, and the other is Zask based. Massive curveball right there, right? Roger is actually scarier than you think, but he isn't supposed to engage. See, the problem is everyone plays Roger like a fighter/marksman, but in reality, he should be played as a marksman/fighter. What the heck do I mean by that? Well, stop running around in wolf form and doing 99% of your activities in wolf form and forgetting that he has a human mode except when you're trying to run away from enemies. No. He should be played mostly in human mode unless he's actually engaging enemies. It's really weird to explain it, but that's just the way he's designed. You want to always keep your distance until the enemy is low enough that you can get chain kills with him. The full team is Roger, Valier, Vale, Hylos, and Franco. Hylos can support and enhance an escape route in case you get caught in Mincathar's ult, as well as peel off some damage, while Valier can prevent enemies from getting close to the team, and Vale can crush grouped up enemies from a distance. Just for safe measures, we have Franco added on in order to counter the maximum amount of time possible on Argos' ultimate. In fewer words, this team counters by consistently poking from a distance, with the ability to always regroup being an option. They don't lack a tank shredder either in this case, but as you can see, that team formation is not likely to happen in ranked games. On the other hand, we have counter team number 2. This one is based on Zask and Estes. The full team is Zask, Estes, Sun, Beleric, and Esmeralda. All of these heroes don't really have blinks. They are either summons or blinks that can be used inside Minsethar's ult, and the summons have a nasty purpose you will see in a minute. Early game, the key to this counter team is Beleric and Estes laning together, while Zask and Sun lane together, and Esmeralda is of course left solo laning. In teamfights, Estes can and will heal summons or clones, while also grabbing some of their attack and magic power. So instead of gaining stats from 4 allies as usual, in teamfights, Estes will instead gain stats from 7 allies. You may not think this is strong yet, but if you add both true damage items from their respective classes, Endless and Calamity, then you see where I'm going with this. Furthermore, we have Sun, who also turns into a tank shredder, plus the combination of Beleric and a healer can be quite lethal versus a group of enemies. As a matter of fact, the only person on this team who cannot equip Glowing Wand is Sun, but the other 4 can and should build Glowing Wand after the core items. What this does is cause a Quadra burn during Beleric's ultimate from just taking damage alone. You basically turn Beleric into Claude's ultimate, and it's pretty sick. So while this team by itself can be picked off and attacked, their survivability versus the Argos team is greatly increased due to the synergy of the heroes in that particular case. Needless to say, however, both of the counter teams would die really fast to the meta and therefore fall under the situational class and should only be used to counter the strongest team in Mobile Legends. For the finale, we will address the builds that the heroes on the strongest team should use. You already saw their spells, emblems, and talents, but now I need to explain why you should use the builds I assign. The only exception is Hellcurt, since you guys really like Blade of Despair on him. Build him as you like, as long as you can kill. As a matter of fact, there are 2 heroes with wiggle in their builds. That would be Hellcurt and Minstethar, while Kufra can be built according to the enemy team if you wish. Otherwise, let's dig right in with Argos. Swift Boots are my to-go choice for Argos since he lacks attack speed because of the way I geared him, and he really needs it early game, especially during clashes. Windtalker is critical, core, absolutely necessary no matter how you look at it. If you're looking at the item that follows it, you know that you need 2 Legion Swords and a whole nother 1000 gold to get the Blade of Despair. So while you now have a sustainable attack speed and movement speed, the damage will scale along with the game as you build the Blade of Despair. Berserkers Fury is next up, and we already have an 8.6% crit chance from our emblem, as well as a 10% chance from Windtalker, and a cool 25% chance from Berserkers Fury. So we end up sitting at a 43.6% crit chance, which is actually not bad, and you'll see why if you use the build. But then we run into the problem of choice, Scarlet Phantom or Demon Hunter Sword. And I can tell you that this is totally dependent on the enemy team. If the enemy team has a particularly annoying tank or fighter, you may want to build Demon Hunter Sword first, instead of Scarlet Phantom. But if the enemy team has a lot more squishy targets, I recommend you get Scarlet first, as this allows you to take care of enemies faster. Raffi has 2 options, and it really depends on how aggressive the enemy team is. If they aren't that aggressive, you can get the Clock of Destiny first, but if they are and you cannot farm the blue buff, I would suggest that you get the Enchanted Talisman first. The point is, you need to be able to spam your skills for the team, fam. Otherwise, you can clearly tell that Lightning Truncheon is missing, and this is because it is not better for her. Sure, you do more damage, but you can't and will not be able to keep up in chain assists without getting rid of it. The idea is to use Clock of Destiny to boost overall stats for a mage as well as HP, and get concentrated energy for chain assists and extra sustain. Then you will begin to hurt with true damage from the Calamity Reaper, and in the end we only augment the magic power and HP by adding the Holy Crystal and Blood Wings respectively. Test all of these builds out in Classic or Custom if you doubt their power. We're almost there, guys, only have 3 to go. Alright, so I have 3 Kufra builds. The top one is more of a tanky fighter build. The middle one is more of a legit fighter build, which makes you squishier, but you do more damage. And the bottom build is pure tank. There's nothing much to explain about these other than use them according to the enemy team. Why can't Mobile Legends give us 7 slots anyways? I keep on finding myself telling people that boots should always go first, and that if you see a full item build from me without boots, then that just means that the final item is so critical, I can't leave you guessing what to sell the boots for late game. I need to tell you what that final item is. As you can tell, this Hellcurt build is focused on movement speed and damage, as well as including the ability to sustain against enemy bursts late game. Call it a noob build if you want, it's pretty simple and straightforward. You get Hunter's Strike to do damage, you get a small movement speed boost, get a nice 10% cooldown, along with the exact same benefits on Endless Battle, plus true damage. And then Berserkers Fury to land some criticals, hopefully when you engage an enemy, or to help you farm. We then further increase the movement speed and his slow attack speed with Windtalker. At this point you should be feeling like Naruto, and the combination of Rose Gold and Wotak can help you dive into enemies like Eudora safely. By the way, the boots for this demon are the Wizard boots, because you can get assists from using your ultimate from a distance. Speaking of getting gold from assists from a distance, we have Mincetar up next. Now I know a lot of people refuse to play him damage/burst, but I really don't know why, as his ultimate brings in some nasty defense. But I get it. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then please build the tank variant for him. I've tried a lot of different tank builds on him, but this is the one that works the best. Getting Athena's shield early sets you up for getting max shield mid-game from Athena's, but we need the slowdown to keep enemies in your ultimate, and the mana regen is nice from Thunderbelt as well. In order to boost your shield to amount similar to the damage build, you will need to get Oracle next, and if you're keeping tabs on cooldown, you will see that as soon as you add Wotak, you get 35% cooldown reduction on Mincetar. The only thing that hinders him is that he needs to recall often after clashes. That's why I added the Sky Guardian helmet, to avoid all of that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have a full squad that can try this out, then please do so and save the recording to send over to me. I am extremely confident that this team will bring you success on the battlefield. Zero out.